When I moved to Massachusetts and started really mapping out the state and trying to figure out what was going on, I noticed over and over again that the Bridgewater area, here's an area where this, even organized government had decided to put a mental hospital, a state penitentiary, a very strange forest, the Freetown Forest, and all of these were almost as if they were the recent modern outcome of the Hockomock Swamp, the Bridgewater Triangle, being a very sinister, strange location. You don't put a penitentiary or a state hospital for the criminally insane in neighborhoods that aren't already accepting of something a little bit off. During the colonial times, there's, of course, many records and diaries and different things of strange phenomena. I kept coming across these notes about a yellow day. And by a yellow day, what they meant is in the Bridgewater Triangle, the whole sky turned yellow. It's almost as if there was pollen all over everything. Spooklights are this phenomenon in which we really see a connection to a geographic location. There's different spooklights stories all across the United States. A lot of people have heard about the Brown Mountain lights or the Mafra lights. And those get a lot of publicity, and I was interested to know if in the Bridgewater Triangle there were any spooklights. And as it turned out, near the Raynham Dog Track, which certainly has had a lot of interesting reports associated with it, people were seeing these spooklights. And of course, the debunkers, the skeptics, those people that want to just throw out spooklights will immediately tell you it's just swamp gas. But there's not swamp gas all over the country in all these locations. And even though you have the Hockomock Swamp close by, there's not a lot of sightings of different kinds of phenomena coming from the swamp that you would expect routinely. So once in a while to get spooklights in the area really is interesting because it almost seems to be a phenomena that is more based upon the location and not just the swamp, but maybe some kind of electromagnetic plasma igniting. And so that seems to be what's happening there. It's interesting, one of the earliest introductions to the Bridgewater Triangle for me was I was listening to a radio show, and they were joking about the whole area around Bridgewater being mystical and strange. And they had this joke that they were talking about a bus load of nuns disappearing in the area. And it was something I checked out and never was real. But I then tried to track down why were they talking about this area. And it turns out there were UFO sightings going on. Everybody always seems to want to talk about UFOs as an introduction to an area. And the two sightings that I heard about were the one near a restaurant and the other from a guy named Jerry Lopes, who said that he'd seen a diamond-shaped object going through the sky. I heard reports about them on the radio. I heard them being interviewed. It all seemed credible. And of course, for myself, which was much more interested in spatial things like rocks and geographic sites and cryptozoological reports, I was interested in seeing if there was any kind of commonality. So I didn't investigate those UFO reports specifically, but I was interested in them in the context of the area of the Bridgewater Triangle. There's a point I always like to make, which is that I don't believe any of this. And that shocks people. But I don't like to use the word believe, because believe is taking things on faith. There's two groups of people I do not like on investigations with me. The debunkers, which come into the room with a preconceived notion that none of this can happen, none of this is real. The other people that I don't like to be with me on investigations are true believers. They totally come into an investigation believing everything is paranormal, occult, spooky. The Bridgewater Triangle has to be real. I approach every investigation, looking at whether or not there's evidence for this to exist. I accept or deny the evidence. For me, I would not be interested in the Bridgewater Triangle if I did not accept that there seems to be credible evidence for a focused area of phenomena.